Now I'd like to talk about Alien Isolation, but specifically the first hour, because that's all I've played. But I think it's interesting to look at the first hour on its own and see, see what they did and see if things could be done differently. And certainly I think it's interesting to me because, in the first hour, at least, maybe I suck and maybe I'm slow, but there's been no alien at all in the first hour. And I mean, it's interesting from a pacing standpoint. I guess the game is like 20 hours long or something ridiculous. So, I mean, I'll probably be sick of the alien in a couple hours, but from a pacing standpoint, it's interesting. Certainly there's some really basic stuff, figuring out how to navigate, figuring out, their objective system and intro to crafting. But on the whole, I mean, it's been pretty slow. There's been some long cutscenes that are kind of interesting, and but I mean, there's been a lot of walking around, and to me, well, obviously I'm biased, right? Because arguably Neverending Nightmares has too much walking around, according to some critics. But to me, I think walking around works when there's sort of atmosphere. But to me, like, I'm not feeling the atmosphere in the first hour. So I mean, certainly it's not boring, but it's not great. And so, I mean, like, I guess maybe I just feel like, the whole sci-fi quarters thing has been done to death. And so, I played through Doom 3, and I played through Dead Space, and certainly, both of those are more action games than horror, in my opinion, but especially Dead Space. I think not 3, but Dead Space 1 and 2, they did a really great job with the atmosphere. Walking through that space station is tense. There's atmosphere there. Certainly, I don't think Doom 3 quite captured that, although maybe it's because I didn't, play with the flashlight mod, or I did play with the flashlight mod, or maybe it's just that again, they don't have a huge focus on atmosphere. They just start throwing enemies at you pretty early on. Yeah, it's, I think, they have messages sprawled on the walls in the space station, and it's damaged, but I mean, and then you start seeing people, but the people are kind of weird because, like some of the people I saw, I'm like, okay, I can follow them, and then they came from a door you can't open, and they left to a door you can't open, and so then it's like, I guess they're purely just a scripted thing, like, oh my gosh, there's people, and certainly, obviously there's a lot of setup, but, I guess I'm not really feeling it, and I wonder if introducing the alien early on would be a good idea or a bad idea, because certainly I'm all for the idea of a slow burn. Neverending Nightmares, I guess, I don't know, some people think it's a bit slow, or think we do this build up, but I mean, to me, we very carefully tried to create this tension ramp, and so at the beginning it's not super tense, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And so I mean, certainly I can understand that they might be doing that, but perhaps the problem is indicative of a larger pacing problem. I mean, obviously, there's been a lot of positive reviews, but some of the negative reviews, I mean, from some big sites, I think I was reading the IGN one, and, they're like, hey, this game is really, 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 really long. Because, I mean, certainly I don't want to play a 20-hour game anymore. I mean, you know, like, I love Fatal Frame 1 and 2. I've been playing Fatal Frame 3 because, or I haven't been playing Fatal Frame 3. I got like 8 hours into it and I'm like maybe close to halfway done. Or maybe I'm a third done or something, and it's just like, oh my gosh. And I mean, you know, there is a lot of, you know, I mean, there's not a ton of new environments or new things in Fatal Frame 3, and I mean, certainly there's been quite a bit of art in Alien Isolation so far, but, you know, I mean, I guess, you know, to some extent, sci-fi interiors look kind of samey, so I haven't been, like, loving the art, thus far, but, I mean, certainly judging a game by the first hour is sort of an interesting idea, because, I mean, one would think you'd want to hook people in the first hour, and, I mean, I guess it's already hooked me before I purchased the game because of the license, right? Like, I like horror, I like Alien, of course I'm going to check out the game, especially because, you know, I mean, while the reviews have been kind of mixed, I mean, overall, not bad. But, I mean, you know, if I were just playing, you know, some random horror game, you know, that I hadn't heard much about, and, you know, didn't have the power of the license, I mean, I would probably give up on it unless, you know, people are telling me this is amazing, you gotta check it out. So, I mean, I guess that's a bad thing, you know, maybe the burn is too slow, or maybe it's indicative of the fact that they tried to stretch out the game too far. And, I mean, game pacing is tough, and it's tough to, you know, deliver, the right amount of content in a way that everyone will make people happy. You know, some people said, oh, Neverending Nightmares is too short. Other people said it's, you know, too long. You repeat content too much. And it's tough to please everyone. And while certainly I feel like, you know, the pacing is deliberate and, you know, definitely some locations look like other locations. The idea is sort of a theme and variation, and sort of the, you know, some things stay the same, some things are different. And I mean, certainly we were constrained by budget. You know, we couldn't, you know, create a huge quantity of art. I think we actually went, you know, a bit over our art budget. You know, from what we budgeted in the Kickstarter, and I mean, that's just sort of, I mean, creating high-quality art is hard, and I mean, certainly, you know, we can in no way compare ourselves to Alien Isolation in that aspect, because, you know, they probably had 50 artists for, you know, 4 years or something, I don't know, maybe 50 artists for 3 years, but still, that's a lot of art time. But, I mean, I don't know, I just think it's interesting to look at it from a perspective of pacing, and certainly I'll give more impressions on the actual game, you know, once I get further, once I finish it. I'm a little terrified. I'm playing on easy, but, you know, the comments on difficulty has been a little, discouraging to me since I suck at games, you know, so, I don't know. Hopefully things will pick up and I won't terribly suck at easy. So, anyway, thanks for watching.